So we're here with Jim Barfield. He is the founder of the Copper Scroll Project. It's a very interesting research that he's been involved with here for quite a few years. I first heard about you, Jim, probably about a decade ago. I was in Israel in 2011 for the first time, and I got back, and it kind of rocked my world, and I just tried to consume everything I could about Israel history, archaeology, etc. And so I basically found the work you were doing, or some of the research, and it was 2 years until I went back, 2013. But I remember going back totally like enthralled. That was the first time. 2013 was the first time I went back to Qumran,
Hmm.
and and kind of followed the videos that you had put out back then. There was, I think, 2 or 3 part series videos that you had put out about your theory about the Copper Scroll. But it was very vivid for me, and I appreciate the work. And I want other people to know about the research and what you came up with. And I know you spent a lot of time, money, and you've had a lot of frustrations too, because uh, you can't do
Yeah.
what you really want to do. But I guess we could start with kind of your background, and from there you can explain to us a little bit what the Copper Scroll is, and then whatever we want to do, we'll just have a conversation, talk about it, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, it sounds great. My background is uh, my career that I had prior to becoming interested in the Copper Scroll Project or the Copper Scroll. I was a firefighter. Actually, at the time that I made the discovery was after my retirement, but I did investigative work as a arson investigator. And I won the two highest awards for investigators in Oklahoma, and the other one was I won it for Oklahoma Investigator of the Year. Then I won it again for after that. They put me in and they continued on. I won it internationally. But my background in aviation, I was a test pilot for the Army and
Okay.
flew scout helicopters in combat roles. All of my career, I was in combat MOSs, meaning combat skills training.
Okay.
So that's pretty much my background because I went right out of high school into the military and I stayed there for 10 and a half years. After that, I got out and joined the fire department, stayed there for 20, almost 24 years.
Wow.
And I didn't have a lot of diversity in my background as far as training skills go. I'm certainly not an archaeologist.
Sure.
I don't have any of those, the background for archaeology, but I do have a passion for biblical study. And that's where this all spiraled from. It was my Bible study. I didn't, I had no real intention of picking this up with a purpose of discovering where these items were at. I just did it out of a whim one morning. I'd met Vendel Jones, who was what everybody considered to be the Copper Scroll guy. But I listened to his research, and it really wasn't research; it was just all in his head. The guy, I didn't agree with him. He was a nice guy. His research into the background of the Copper Scroll, I agree with that. And he and I both, we sat down and were talking about Qumran because that's where the Copper Scroll was found at, like about a mile away from Qumran, a little less than a mile. And that's where I began picking up the desire to even search for the Copper Scroll. The location was after I met with him. I thought, you know what? I got a lot of background investigation. I'm going to go ahead and try to see if I can figure this thing out. Buddy, it took me about when I started early on one cold December morning. Um, it took me about 5 minutes to figure out how to understand the Copper Scroll. That sounds crazy.
Yeah.
It sounds ridiculous, but I'm telling you, it's the truth.
Wow.
And after that, Within 20 minutes, I had the first 5 locations figured out. None of them have changed to this day. Once I made the discovery, it was done. I was set, and then all I had to do was apply the same technique, line by line by line, word by word, until I got the whole thing completed. It took me from January, no, I'm sorry, December until June. I think it was the 22nd of June when I finally sealed my research and called it good at that point. So it took that long to figure out every single word and fill in all the blanks so that I knew that I had everything in its right order. But that's pretty much the background leading up to the Copper Scroll.
And that was what year did you? What year was that in? Maybe you said it, I missed it.
2006.
2006. Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
And then you took you did you do several excavations there, or you did just the one excavation?
We did, well, let's just say this. We did an excavation, but did excavation, but then they weren't really excavations past and once we got past the first one, really wasn't an excavation after that. We were going to go down about 6 feet, 2 meters, at the cave entrance where I believe the cave entrance was at.
Yep.
And then we were going to go down a considerable distance, but we got a phone call during the cave excavation. Once that phone call was done, the archaeologist walked away from us, and it wasn't good because at that point had decided they had decided upper echelons had decided to shut the operation down. It was, from what all I understand, uh, ASOR, a archaeological group here in the United States, were angry that they were allowing a non-archaeologist to test his research there at Qumran. I mean, the IAA or the ADCA was actually paying for everything.
Hmm.
They were paying the salary of Yuval Peleg, the guy that did the checking my research. They paid for the diggers, everything. All I had to do was show up and point. This is where I want this. This is where I want to dig here, and they were not happy. They were angry that I was, getting all this special treatment, really, which really wasn't, because it wasn't officially was not my excavation. It
Sure.
was under Yuval Peleg's,
Right.
uh, under his license and everything, and he was the main research archaeologist for the ADCA for Qumran. That was pretty much his second home,
Hmm.
and very wonderful man, very nice guy. And but I think he got in trouble for for working with me. I think the scholars of the world were hammering him. But you know what? The guy that was the main lead in hammering everybody, me in particular, um, he he got to see a portion of my research, and after he saw it, he quit hammering me. He realized, oh my gosh, this is really very simple, and this guy's figured it out. And
Wow.
so he was not a nice man. I won't say his name, but you can read the book and you'll find out exactly who it was.
Yeah.
The guy was not a nice man at all, and someday he's going to regret what he's done.
Hmm.
All the ugly things he said about me, my family, the guys on the project, ugly stuff. And
Wow.
someday you're going to pay for that.
It's 13 hours.
Oh, sorry. So he'll regret saying those things because I absolutely believe we figured out where these things are at, and if they ever allow us to dig, and I think they will, we're going to find some pretty amazing things.
And basically, for people that don't know what the Copper Scroll is, it was just one of the scrolls that was found during the Dead Sea Scrolls, the find, or when they were looking for stuff. And it's unique because it was done in copper, which means it is incredibly valuable. Um, and it was, it's been some years since I've gone through that research, but I know they basically sourced it three different authors, I believe, something like that. But definitely ancient. And what it describes is basically, in a nutshell, the temple treasure, as I understood it. But basically, you kind of solve the riddle of the locations that I was describing by overlaying it on Qumran. And yeah, kind of the rest is history. I remember yeah, yeah. You have some. I'm just looking at your website right now. You've got some diagrams and stuff on there where it shows some of this. But we could be potentially talking about. I think I've heard you say this before, but it could even be potentially in the billions of dollars. Is that a fair statement, or is that a little exaggerated?
No. There's one location, location number 3, that contains almost $2 billion worth of gold, polished gold. Uh, let's say that it's what we calculate a talent, which is that's what the measurements are, is in talents. All the weights are in talents, biblical measurement. It was We use 75 pounds, so it works out to be almost $2 million. But if we cut that in half, you got $1 billion in gold sitting there. But if you take that gold and label it from the time of Jeremiah, that the prophets of Jeremiah, his time frame, buried these things. Guess what? That's like Antique Roadshow with the provenance on a small bowl. Being from Abraham Lincoln's lips at the Ford's Theater, it goes through the roof.
Yeah.
So that one location alone is well over $1 billion.
That's just unfathomable. Now, I know there was probably some hesitation, I assume, by the IAA for, like, because of the location being in the West Bank, well, the territories, but in being over in the West Bank, the potential debate that could happen with a find that would be of that magnitude. Or do you think they're kind of past that?
No, I think that is the secondary concern. I think the primary concern is the possibility of finding the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh.
That's where the big issue comes in, because Israel, excuse me, is far more secular than what I thought it was. I mean, it's still more religious than the United States. I'm being honest with you. They stop everything on their Sabbath.
Yeah.
They put everything aside, and that becomes a focus for 24 hours straight.
Right.
So what? They're much more determined to be who they are, but they're still a secular uh, overshadow of some people that I don't even want to talk about. They're horrible, controlling people, and they don't want these things found. And if you believe in God, if you believe that there's a Satan, if you believe those things, then what I'm doing, what we're doing, uh, that becomes a very high target for, uh, if you believe in the spiritual world, it becomes a very high target for whoever's involved in that sort of thing.
Hmm.
So, the West Bank issue is a big issue, but the greatest issue of all is I'm assuming you're a religious man.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then you look at it from a spiritual, biblical standpoint. We've got some serious opposition for this,
Hmm.
but the time will come, and if everything we believe about the Bible, and I do believe the Bible, there's going to come a time that these things are going to come out of the ground, and there are, I don't know whether you call them prophecies, but they're not biblical prophecies. They're prophecies in Second Maccabees said when these things are found, it'll be the time of the coming of the Messiah.
Hmm.
Another one says that when these things are found, it'll be the time of the regathering of the nation of Israel. When these things are found, it's all about the return of the Messiah.
Do you have do you have any references in Maccabees?
Yeah, Maccabees, Second Maccabees, second chapter, first paragraph, I believe.
Just look it Oh, that was Jeremiah hiding. Gotcha. Yep. Straight. It was all straight. The prophet, having received an oracle, ordered that the tent and the ark should follow him, that he went out to the mountain where Moses had gone up and seen the inheritance of God. And Jeremiah came and found a cave and brought there the tent, the ark, the altar of incense, seal up the entrance. Some of those who followed him. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Very interesting. The Lord will disclose these things, and the glory of the Lord and the cloud will appear as they were shown in the case of Moses. Solomon asked that the place should be specially consecrated. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, and this is one of the things that intrigued me about it is, I mean, you're talking ancient. I mean, the Copper Scroll's been dated to the time period, like you said, that um, Haggai and Zechariah. Um, there was another one. I forget what his name is, an author. But you're talking biblical prophets that would have wrote this, and this is in the days of Jeremiah. And I know that there's other
Yeah.
theories out there as far as location for the Ark of the Covenant stuff. And I'm not, to me, we'll see. But I was very intrigued with what you uncovered with the whole Qumran thing. So, how, in your mind, like, do you see this kind of stalled, and it will just be stalled until forever? But or have you made any? Is there any traction at all in the last couple of years?
Since the COVID thing hit, they really put a cramp on what we were doing and how we were out doing an outreach to people to make them aware of it.
Yeah.
So yes, it has. The COVID thing has put a real crimp in our style, but there is a couple of possibilities. The TV group out of Germany wants me to go with them to Israel and do a story on the Ark of the Covenant. That's their primary focus.
Okay.
And they really were interested in my theory of where the Ark of the Covenant was at. And I think it's because my theory is not some elaborate, Jesus went to England and, the Illuminati, all it. It's simple. It's just a simple. They took the Ark of the Covenant, the table of showbread, altar of incense, and they put it inside of a cave, and it's on the way to Mount Nebo. And there's so many other things that support that it's hard not to recognize the simplicity of it. And it's only like at the most 13 miles away. And there's so much history behind it that backs it up and makes it so logical that you go with the Occam's razor theory of, the simplest answer is normally the best answer. Mm. And that's the way I see it. And so do a lot of the rabbis in Israel see it the same way.
Very interesting. So you basically, you've been on site probably for some time. Is there like a lot of interest in the Israeli side, like people that you've interacted with over there as far as what it could be, et cetera? Or do they just kind of,
Oh, yeah. No, they listen. Before they listen, they usually go, They just, it's still hard to believe. I mean, a fireman from Lawton, Oklahoma, finds the Ark of the Covenant and all the treasures. Yeah, right. And I get it. I get it. It's just a logical reaction. But then they start looking at the research. I have never shown the research that it went past the fourth location before they went, oh my gosh. Because again, it's so simple. It's not mystical. It's not Kabbalah, some mystical, Jewish teaching. It's not. It's simple. Do this, find this. That's how easy it is.
That's so cool. So I guess time will tell and see if we ever get to see that stuff eventually. I assume we'll get to see what happens in the future in the world we live in. This stuff could be coming out soon. You never know.
Well, and again, the prophecy says, and again, who knows whether it's accurate or not, but at the time that when these things are found, it'll be the time to come into the Messiah. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of teaching about the Messiah will be the one that will bring these things out of the ground. Well, we now know, if I'm right, Let's put it that way. If
Yeah.
we now know where these things are at. So all it takes is a man with enough guts to step up, a leader in Israel with enough guts to step out and say, no, let's let this guy check this theory, because what's it going to hurt? I dig a hole in the ground out in the wilderness, literally out in the wilderness. No one's going to be hurt by it. It's not going to cause any problems. And we would know. I promise you, we could know, I mean, physically have hands on silver ingots in about 2 hours tops. And probably if I took my old buddy Matt Kaiser with me, he's a farmer rancher, and the guy could dig a hole that deep. He's 6'4" and a very strong guy, and he could have it dug, in 30 minutes. And that's no exaggeration. We would know if he would be doing it. But you got the archaeological way of digging, which is with the toothbrush.
Right.
It's going to take a while.
Yep. Got to sift and all that good stuff.
Yes.
So the picture that's behind you, your head's kind of in the mouth of it. Was that during the excavation?
No, actually, that is Cave 3. That's where the copper scroll was found.
Gotcha. Okay. And that is, you said, how far away from Qumran?
That cave is a little less than a mile away from Qumran. Due north. Right.
Due north.
Due north. Yep.
Due north. Okay. Was there any stuff found in the same cave, other writings, or this one was all by itself?
Yeah, I believe there were other things found inside the cave. This was, of course, the biggest one, and it was actually found on the last day of a sanctioned archaeological search for more of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Last day of their excavation, they were searching for more scrolls, and they just happened to stumble upon this copper scroll behind. The ceiling had collapsed, and it formed like a false wall. And They looked behind the wall, and there it was, sitting on a shelf.
Wow.
Just happened to find it at the last minute. Amazing.
I remember looking at pictures of when they eventually they cut it and peeled it back so you could read it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's really nothing like it, even in antiquity, like copper scrolls like that. I mean, it's not something that's that prevalent in archaeology that I know of, at least in Israel. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff. I've been over, just FYI, I've been over half a dozen times. I've spent 3 of those times I was there for about a month, and I, rent a car and drive around. I'm one of those more adventure type guys, not the pre-scripted tour kind of people. So I like getting in and like getting to know the terrain, the geography, etc. But yeah, you don't really see that. I have, at least for me, I don't know of any other type of scroll like that they've found really in antiquity. I mean, probably the closest thing would be cuneiform tablets, where you have clay and you're etching it. So for them to do something in copper meant it was extremely valuable.
Yeah. The copper is, it's not like you can run to Hobby Lobby, buy a roll of copper. Back in those days, they had to make it themselves. They had to smelt it. They had to do all the processing, purifying, and then they had to hammer it out flat. And each sheet of this copper scroll is about 2.5 feet long.
Yeah.
So it works out to be about 7 feet long. They had to rivet all 3 sheets together. And people call it the copper scrolls, but it's actually the copper scroll. Because it broke, it snapped. When they riveted it together, they started to roll it up, and where they put the rivets in it, they snapped completely out of it, which made it into two scrolls. But it's only one scroll.
Very cool. And the writing is it Hebrew, I assume?
It's ancient Hebrew, yes.
Like not Paleo, it would be.
No, Paleo's more of a
that's the Talmudic.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very interesting. Well, tell us a little bit about your website, I guess, and information, and how people can help if you're into that. Yeah.
You know what? We're redoing my website. They can go to the website. It's just do a Google or what's the other one? GoDaddy or whatever. DuckDuckGo. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
My wife, she's monitoring she corrects me. So it's just go to the search engine, type in the Copper Scroll Project, and it'll come up on there. We're redoing the Copper Scroll Project website very shortly. We're going to start here soon. But as far as donating, don't worry about that. We try to survive without any or very little donations, because we want this not to be a money making operation. We're doing it because we believe in what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's it. Just purely because we believe what we're doing is the right thing to do.
And you do presentations the way it looks here in person as well, if people are into that sort of thing?
Yes. Yeah, I'll go anywhere in the country, and I've been overseas doing it, but I've been all over the United States now doing presentations. And the way I do it is they pay my way there. They provide me with a place to stay, and I always try to take my wife with me. I just think it's much better to do it that way.
Oh yeah.
Take her with me, and because she's my memory, she helps me stay on track and that sort of thing. So that's our goal. Is once I get there, if they want to take up a collection, call it whatever they want to call it, that's up to them. And that's the way. If there's any money to come into my hands for the project, that's the way it happens. And I just like it that way, because the people are not forced to pay, $50 a head to come see me talk. That's not what this is about. It's not about me building my savings account or anything. It's about sharing the story with everyone, because the time will come. It's like I'll be going to Los Angeles. If everything comes through this week, I'll be going to Los Angeles to do I can't say who it is for right now, but it's a very large company, and you'd know immediately who I was talking about if I said it. They do a lot of history stuff.
Okay.
So
yeah.
So that's rewarding to me, because that's a big way to get out the story and let people know what's happening.
Wow. So
that's my goal.
Okay. Well, I won't ask too many questions along that, but we assume that's going to turn into something that's viewable.
Yes, it will. It'll be yes. It's going to be kind of like what we're doing today.
Okay.
It's not actually going out to Qumran. Now the other one, where the German producers are contacting me, that's a go to Qumran and walk around there and talk about the Copper Scroll that way.
Wow. And so, and your theory, and that the cave was a big deal because it's described in the scroll as the Mound of Color, as I recall, and that's really the primary, like the primary article of interest for you in the whole thing. I mean, of course, there's many sites across the whole thing. I mean, you want all of it, but that really, the cave is the big one. If you could see what's in the cave, that would be a good start.
Yeah, and I went up to the cave where we believe the cave is at, with Moshe Feiglin, who was the deputy speaker of the Israeli Knesset. He went out there with me because he was angry at the government for not allowing me to at least scan the area. And I told him that. I said, I'd really like to scan this location at Qumran. I said, but I can't. And he said, why? And I said, because it's illegal for me to get out there and scan it. He said, I'll help you. He said, you show me how to operate it, walk with me and talk me through it. And it's a big device. It's like 6 feet by 6 feet, the head of it, 2 meters by 2 meters, huge. But all it is a wire, and it acts as a head on a metal detector work.
Okay. Yeah.
Same principle. We scanned the doggone place. He scanned the doggone place, and we got some enormous readings for enormous amounts of non-ferrous metals, which is copper, gold, silver, that sort of thing.
Wow.
But at the cave, It was off the charts.
Are you serious?
Off the charts.
Man, that's oh well. I guess we just have to wait. Let's, oh well.
Yeah, yeah, we do. We're trying to do everything legal, and I would have never done that, scanned it without,
Sure, yeah.
standard authorization. But when the deputy speaker of the Connecticut said, "We're going to do this," I just saluted and said, "Yes, sir. Let's do it. Let's scan this place." And it was incredible. I mean, to sit there and watch my computer, come to life, and I pull up the first location. I mean, we were all staring at the screen. My wife, my son, my youngest son, we were all staring at the screen, waiting, and there it was. None of us could even react because it was so hard to believe that there was so much in each location. It was just a really, and everything rested on that. I mean, I would have really been incredibly disappointed had there been nothing on the screen, because Qumran, it's out in the wilderness.
Right.
Why would there be, huge amounts of non-ferrous metals under the ground at Qumran, unless, 2,300 years ago, Jeremiah and the prophets had a beer party and they put all their cans under the ground, the aluminum can. Why would it be there? Just doesn't make. It had to be a few kegs there too. It just doesn't make any sense.
Now, in your opinion, all of this comes from First Temple period.
Yes, not King Herod, not Zerubbabel's temple. This is First Temple
All
period
First Temple.
stuff.
All
the documents say that.
I had an interesting. It's kind of a rabbit trail, but it's an interesting one. I did a discussion 3 weeks ago with Christian Widener, who's got a theory about that he's going to be publishing a book here soon. He gave me a little bit of a snippet that he thinks the stones on the base, the ones that are often attributed to Herod, of the Temple Mount, are actually Solomonic. The ones with the margins, okay, the ones that everybody talks about if you do the tunnel tour and all that sort of stuff. But he actually thinks those are actually Solomonic. I'm just fascinated that this type of information is coming out in our generation. Like, there has to be obviously connections. The Lord is wanting this stuff to come out, slowly, tidbit by tidbit. The world is going more secular and anti-God in one way, but yet at the same time, there's more and more evidence coming about the reality of the truth of it, the truth of truth of the plan, truth of what God is going to do and how He's going to, redeem the world and how He's going to cleanse it and all that good stuff. So it's very exciting for me to hear that stuff, because I didn't hear about the scans. That's interesting. Very interesting. Well, I don't know. Anything else you want to add to this? I should probably ask more questions, but I don't know what to ask right now. You're pretty efficient.
I've done this a few times.
I can tell.
So there's hope. Let me just put it that way. That's what I told one of the key rabbis that I spoke with in Israel. When I sat down with him, I told him, he said, "Mr. Barfield, what do you want from me?" And he was kind of frustrated that I was sitting there, because he had no idea what was going on. And he had a very, very full schedule. And I had a heck of a time getting in to see him. But I told him, I've figured out how to understand this copper scroll. You know what it is? He said, "Of course I know what it is." And he just went like, "What? What is, some half-breed Mexican from Lawton, Oklahoma? What are you talking about?" He was a gentleman, but you could see he was just, oh my gosh, I got a nut in my office. And so we're sitting there, and he finally said, "Well, let's see what you got." And me and my buddy Chris Knight I unfolded my document, which was like 190 pages, and I went straight to the disclosure portion that explains each one of the locations. And he looked at it, and I went to the fourth location. Remember when I told you that don't get past the fourth? I told him about it. He looked at the research, and he just got up, grabbed my shoulders and pulled me up, and he kissed me on both cheeks. And you got to visualize this. I'm not a tall guy. I'm 5'9", but he was about 5'4", 5'6", something like that. And he's kissing around on me, and I don't mean that in a nasty, ugly way at all. He was honoring me. But I tell everybody, guys in Oklahoma, most of them don't kiss other guys, and so that was a little odd to me. It was an amazing thing. That was really rewarding, because here's a man, his background was in he knew all about the temple, he knew all about these things, and for him to look at my research and go, oh my gosh, that was rewarding, because now this half-breed Mexican from Lawton, Oklahoma, was getting confirmed about my research. It was confirmation for me, and very rewarding and very usable to get other people to pay attention to me once they found out this rabbi had given me a stamp of approval. Wow. So those are the kinds of things that that have really helped. Yuval Peleg, the archaeologist that went out to Qumran, that was a major feather in my hat, because here's the guy that does the excavations in Qumran, that he too, when I got to number 4, he too was on board. I mean, long story, but I just called him. It was a few months later, I just called him and said, hey, you want to be the lead archaeologist on this? And expecting him to say, no, thank you, I'm too big. He said, yes, I would love to be. So things took off from that point on. So there's a lot more coming, and, let your audience know, or I'll let them know, that never give up. Don't let people sidetrack you. Don't let the bullies get out there, because there are bullies out there that try to sidestep everything.
Oh, yeah.
Because they want all the glory. But there is no glory in this. All glory goes to God. Amen. When these things are found, it's not going to glorify Jim Barfield. It's going to glorify God in such a way that there's going to be a revival like we have never, ever seen. Time's coming. And I believe that with all my heart. Wow. So I'll stop there and let you ask your final questions. I guess you're ready to wind this up.
Well, we can keep talking. I'll just keep listening. I have no problem.
Oh, well, what more would you like to hear about?
Well, I mean, I'm always fascinated with the story. Obviously, your background, and got into the copper scroll and you figured it out. Now, since the time you started to now, have you when you understood it, to you, it was that's sealed. Since then, there's really not been any new pieces added.
Well, as far as the research, no. The biggest thing that I tripped over as I was putting my research together in one package is I was looking for a map of Jerusalem at the time of Jeremiah. That was important to me, so I could visualize things that happened in that Jerusalem, because everything was being orchestrated from Jerusalem by Jeremiah, and he was being held captive in Jerusalem, while the guys at Qumran, the underlings, were and I'm talking underlings like Haggai and Zechariah. Right. That's pretty high underlings, but I believe, honestly, they were boys. Yeah, I believe they were young boys, maybe not much more than 12, 13 years old. And why would I say that? Because that scroll had to last 70 years before it could ever be used again. And they needed men that had been involved in this hiding expedition, where they're hiding all this treasure. They needed 2 boys at least to make it through until the 70 years were over, because if they were 13, 13, and they had to be there for 70 years, you're talking 80-year-old men, 70, 80 years old, depending on how old they were or how soon they went into captivity in Babylon. So so back to my point is, we were looking for a map. I was looking for a map. And whenever I found one, I thought, oh my gosh, here's a map. It said map of Jerusalem, time of Jeremiah, exactly what I needed. When I looked at it, I thought, wait a minute, that's Qumran. But why did they draw it upside down? And I went, Oh my gosh. They, meaning the prophets, Qumran is the home of the prophets.
Yep.
I'm absolutely convinced of that.
Yep.
And that is, they had built Qumran in a location, a perfectly set location, where they had the valleys they needed. They used wadis, which are, wash away
Yep.
property. Anyway, they designed Qumran to be a Jerusalem in the wilderness. That was one of the most fascinating things that I found.
Wow.
And when I showed that to the I went to talk to the Sanhedrin, the current Sanhedrin. I went to show two groups of them, and they all just went, "Oh, oy, oy, oy," and I'm not making fun, but they really did that. And
That's
that
awesome.
it was awesome, because they realized how important Qumran was to the biblical world,
Oh
to
yeah.
their history, to our biblical
Absolutely.
history.
Yeah.
Major deal. So those things. So have I found anything in addition to my initial research in 22 June 2007? A few minor things, but no, the majority of it was found when I was doing the putting the research together.
So, have you delved into any other types of research, or are you pretty much just stuck around the Copper Scroll?
No, I do biblical chronology,
Okay.
and I'm telling you, the biblical chronology is, to me and to many people, it's as exciting as the Copper Scroll, because what I did is very simple again. I just recorded from Adam to Seth. What was it? 110 years. I don't remember what, 90 years. Anyway, from Adam to Seth is a time, locked in time frame. And then I went from Seth to the next biblical person, and which I believe was Enos. Then I took that disc, and what I did is I created a link by link by link of all the dates in the Bible
Yep.
that indicate from this time to this time to this time. And I got all the way to the time of Jeremiah, and there was a link every single step of the way. So the timing, it's like a check register. Remember those things?
Oh yeah.
It's
Yep.
it would be if the bank called you and said, "Hey, you are short, $500 on your bank account." You're going to grab what? You're going to grab your paperwork, your bank register, and say, "No, wait a minute." And you're going to go in there and you're going to compare it, and then you'll find out who made the mistake. Well, that's what I did with the biblical dating. Is I used strictly the Bible to get from Adam all the way down to the crucifixion of Yeshua, Jesus. That's what I used. And buddy, it worked out incredibly well. I got to Jeremiah, and I ran out of references, I thought. And then I went, wait a minute. There were no births, no kings from this king to this king, but there was a prophecy by Daniel. It says, from the going forth of the commandments to restore and rebuild Jerusalem,
Yep.
until the crucifixion or the cutting off of the Messiah, would be 483 years. Guess what? I knew exactly when the crucifixion was, because you know what a Jubilee year is?
Yeah. 70th year or 50th.
Yep, 70,
70th.
yeah,
50th.
49th, actually, 50th,
40th,
let's say 50th.
Yep.
50th year, it gave the date, and that's a 50-year gap on either side, so it's really easy to pinpoint his crucifixion. According, because the Dead Sea Scrolls got 3 prophecies in there about Yeshua, about Jesus. Did you know that?
Which ones?
One of them is about John and the birth of Yeshua, Jesus. Then there's another one about Jesus being the Messiah. Then there's another one, and it gives a date. It gives a date in there as well, which matches exactly with the date that I'm telling you about. Exactly.
Wow. Interesting.
Oh, it's amazing. That's why I'm saying there's a lot of guys. I did a presentation online for some guys in Washington, D.C. area, and the guy said, "Oh my gosh," he said, "I love your story on the Copper Scroll." He said, "But he said, I'm just as excited about this timeline." So I sent him a copy of it so he could do some research with it. That's so do I do other research? Yes, but that's my primary thing. I've done a lot of research on the Minute Qumran. You ever heard of the Melchizedek order?
Yeah.
Well, go to Qumran. If you haven't been there already, I think you said you've been there.
Yeah, I've been there probably 5 times now.
Have you been there since you heard about the project?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah. If you had my research there, there's a guy by the name of Gilad Rosinger. I put him.
Yeah,
You know Gilad?
I don't know him personally, but yeah, I follow him on Facebook. I know him. Yep.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine, and I put him a packet together so he could give tours at Qumran
Okay.
and actually show the locations. I just gave him a few. I didn't give him a bunch of them, so he could show where this stuff was at and see how simple the research is and how easy it is to identify what they're talking about on the copper scroll. So there we have all this stuff coming together. So yeah, I've got the research on the guys at Qumran. I've got the timeline and the Dead Sea Scroll prophecies about Yeshua. So yeah, I've got a lot of stuff that I work on. But the Melchizedek order, the one that I was bringing up, that to me is every bit as fascinating as the Copper Scroll, because that is the home of the Melchizedek order at Qumran.
So
And
unpack that a little bit as far as, so Melchizedek, obviously king of Salem or Salem, and so going forward, you're saying as far as that would have been where the source point of the school of the prophets.
yeah, it's where Abraham met with Melchizedek. Was right there out in the Qumran area. So
coming from the
in
the north.
Yeah, his name actually is either the messenger of righteousness, Malachi, which is either king or messenger. Malach, is like Malachi,
right?
Melchizedek, the messenger of righteousness, or the king, Melech, the king of righteousness. So there's a much bigger story to that than meets the eye. And in the Melchizedek at that time, people loved to think it was Jesus. It wasn't. It was Shem. It was the oldest son of Noah. That was Melchizedek at that time. Whenever Abraham paid tithes, he paid them to Shem, who was that's where the term Semite comes from. Sons of Shem. So anyway, the Melchizedek order being that's their home. And one of the things that it says in the Dead Sea Scrolls, it's the Melchizedek scroll, it talks about Yeshua in that scroll, and people don't realize it. It actually gives Yeshua, how did they put it? The Savior. It's incredible, and it dates his crucifixion on there. Just incredible, but people don't see it because I'm telling you, listen to me. There are people out there in the scholarly world that do not want this information to be set free.
Sure.
Yeah. Promise you. There's some dark figures out there that don't want this information out because it makes their little theories crumble. It's a lot of jealousy in this world, and doggone it, it's not about jealousy. It's about knowledge of our Messiah. It's about knowledge of our God. There's a lot to be gained from this, but they're all worried about the money. They're all worried about the popularity and their silly little, quest to be the top archaeologist or researcher. It's silly.
Yeah. No, I've been over there enough to know enough about that world that it's a little bit of a cesspool, kind of, because it's just a clash of egos. I mean,
it is.
It's it's not about. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to kind of wade through it. Like I remember going, and you hear this person and that they say this way, or that and then another archaeologist will say, oh no, it's this or no. And so you have to actually literally kind of wade through the minefield. It's kind of fun because over the years I've gotten to know different people and guides and whatever. And even them, they don't even believe their own archaeologists sometimes. They're just like, no, this is, or it's like, help me. But yeah, anyway. So I know where you're coming from.
One of the problems is this, they get their this is where they become so, they got their blinders on. is, and I don't mean this ugly, but what they do is they are taught from a script at their universities or colleges. They're taught from a script, and it comes through their university. Well, if that script is not accurate, all of their credibility and everybody before them and after them that are from that particular vein of thought, if that's wrong, they all lose credibility. And their big time PhDs and all that kind of crumbles to the side. I don't have a PhD. I don't give a darn. It is not about, I don't have to worry about pleasing anybody. What I got is just research.
Yep.
And that's one of the things I learned as a firefighter when I was doing the fire investigations. Is one of the things that I did is I would try to prove a particular person innocent, not guilty. I would try to prove them to be innocent. And if it didn't work, I couldn't prove him to be innocent. Guess what? I'm gathering information the whole way about his guilt. And I did well. It worked out very well. Obviously, I got, investigative year worldwide.
Yep.
So there's much more to the story, and there's a lot more to be learned if you just set aside your ego and in your, I don't know, reputation, and just learn, because you can learn from a child if you'll just listen to them. My wife helped me a bunch. She knew things that instinctively that I had to study and work for. It's the strangest thing. Women have a knack for just understanding things. And if the guys will just listen to their wives, they learn a lot. And then even if she's not right, you just say, yes, ma'am, and go on down.
That's the truth. Yep. Well, that's very interesting. No, wow. So just your opinion, maybe you don't have an opinion on this. So you're going into the dating of what Daniel talks about, the 483 years. Any opinions on the whole 70th week theory? Do you ever get into eschatology at all?
Oh gosh, yeah. That timeline I told you about is massive eschatology.
So
one of the things I learned by doing this and laying out a primary, I call them benchmarks. You lay it all out, and it's like your checkbook, your register. It's all there. Then I go back and I plug in information as I find it, and it always works. It always matches. Daniel's timeline. Let me give you a better example. 390 years and the 40 years. That's from the book of Ezekiel. Well, that 390 years is used a lot in prophecy, and there's several places that it lines up. Like the one I was telling you about, one of the prophecies is the birth of Yeshua.
Yeah.
390 years from the Babylonian exile, when they went into exile, 390 years from the destruction of the temple down through time, and then add 20, and that's what the scroll says, of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Add 20 years to that, and it will be the birth of the Messiah. Right there, right on cue. It's right there. So, but that 390 years is also used for what? It's for the Northern Kingdom. 390 years of punishment for not obeying the commandments. Well, from the king that took everybody, all the 10 tribes and the northern tribes of Israel, took them into exile.
Yep.
Exactly. From his death, time 390 years times 7, because they never repented. And what does it say in the Bible? The Old Testament says, you don't repent of your sin, your punishment is multiplied by 7.
Right.
So I put it from the date of his that he died, never repented. So I multiplied it by 7. 390 divided by, or times 7. Guess what year it landed on? The year 1947, when Israel was reborn again. And so again, my point just telling you this story is those numbers work in several different places. to include the one that I just told you about from the Dead Sea Scrolls. So, yeah, I do. There's a lot of eschatology in there. Matter of fact, would you like a copy of it?
Sure, I would love that. Absolutely.
Well, I'll send you one after we get off the line here.
Yeah, perfect.
It's a Excel document.
Okay.
So if you've got Microsoft Excel,
Yep.
you're good to go. You'll be able to pull it up.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That'd be awesome. Well, I don't know how much time you have, so I don't want to overdo it there, but I'm drinking it up. I love it. A young guy like me can learn so much from a guy like you, you know?
Yeah, us old guys, you bet. Listen, if you ever want to get together, and if you, I'll send you the timeline if you want to look at it, and you'll see that prophecies they're incredible.
Wow. Totally.
It's just amazing. And if you ever want to talk about that, we'll do that too. And we can sit down and just do a segment. And even if you just want to talk privately and look at it, we could do that too. Doesn't have to be a show off Jimmy's work. We can do it privately and take a peek at it.
Well, my whole thing with this, I'll be honest with you. So back in 2013, I think I got the idea that I was going, I went to Israel 2011, 2013, 2014, 16, 18, 19, etc. So in 2013, I started a travel blog, and I kind of plagiarized your name a little bit. Sorry. I called my blog Bible Truth Project.
Oh, that's good.
So not because I was trying to like copy what you're doing. I'm just basically, for me, it was like I'm just so passionate about the Bible and truth, and I'm a very project oriented person. So like, we have my dad owns several companies, and so I'm involved with a lot of different type of special projects and stuff that I do. So I'm a very project oriented type of a guy. So for me, it was just kind of like the project part of your name kind of had a ring. So I had called my blog Bible Truth Project, and later I decided, make a YouTube channel and blah, 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 blah. And years have gone on. I kind of let it sit and didn't do that much with it. Part of it is I had some kids a couple years ago. Life gets busy, and it's kind of hard to keep pushing material out. But in the last year, I said, I need to take that up again. And I'd love to have conversations with the people that have impacted me and the research that I've done, the things that I've, seen and experienced in Israel, and, and just talk to people that have been influencers for myself, which is you are definitely one of those. So sorry for kind of stealing. I didn't steal your name, but kind of for borrowing off of it a little bit.
Not a problem at all. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah. No, anything else you want to add? I'm always interested. This is fun conversation. I love it.
I do too. I like it's a more relaxed format. I really enjoy that, because I can discuss things and talk about things that are happening. But I encourage people, just keep your eyes open. Know that there are things, dark things going on behind the scenes.
Yep.
That all of us need to be as aware as we possibly can be, and look up, because redemption may be around the corner.
Yep.
And I hope and I pray that it is, because we are in a very dark world.
Yep.
And some of the things that are happening is evil like I never expected to see. And within the last 3 years, I have been so enlightened to the darkness that exists in our country and around the world. That all of your listeners, they take that very serious, and know that get all your buddies in church or synagogue, whatever they do, get them in there, because there's important things coming. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, amen. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for the research, the years of dedication and faithfulness to it. That's something that the Lord will reward you for. But thank you for talking to us, and hopefully we can continue the conversation later.
I'd love to. Anytime you want to do this, just let me know, and and I apologize publicly for missing the link tonight. That was entirely my fault.
No, it's not a problem on my part. So, thank you.
You bet. You have a wonderful day, and I'll be talking to you hopefully soon.
That would be awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jim.
You bet. You're welcome. Bye bye.
Bye bye.